Hi guys, this is Yasser from I-SQL and welcome to this tutorial. If this is your first time landing here, please make sure to subscribe to this channel and click on the notification button so you can see all my future tutorial notifications once I post them. Also, if you liked the content of this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. So let's go over the table of content for today's tutorial, then we'll start right after that. Please stay tuned. Aliases. So SQL aliases are used to give a table or a column in a table a temporary name. So aliases are actually usually used to make a column names more readable. Let's go over some examples here so it will make better sense. So the first thing, we will start with column aliases. Alrighty, so let's get our query here. We will always use our employee table for now. Okay. And I suggest when you guys start typing your queries to use this format to make your query more readable. And you will see that actually once we start doing joins, joining multiple tables and trying to return multiple columns, it will make better sense at that time. But for now, try to start writing your queries the way I'm writing it right now, where you do your select command first, then you go back to the line and you do an indent or tab and you type in the first column that you are trying to return, which will be in our case national ID number. Then all the next columns that I'll be writing, they should be aligned within that same first column. So the next one we'll be looking at will be job title, comma, and I will have to write my last column here, which will be the hire date. And as I probably said previously, that in SQL it does not matter whether you write in uppercase or lowercase when you code, because there are some other coding languages like such Python. They actually they are very sensitive when you type in something in uppercase versus lowercase. In SQL, when you code, it does not matter. You can code in uppercase, lowercase, you will still get the same result. And let's demonstrate that right now before we do the alias. So I'm going to run this query in a mix of uppercase and lowercase. And as you can see, I still got my results back. Now I'm going to switch these back to all uppercase and I will run the query. And as you see, it did run again. I'm getting my results. Let's try now lowercase everything. Execute my query, and as you can see, everything is returned back without any problem. Now, going back to our aliases, we will start aliasing columns first. So for example, let's say I did not like the way this column looked like, and I need it to look in a different way that will make it actually easy for my eyes whenever I see the column headers. So the way you do that is you have to type in the original name of your column within your table or source table, and you can do the word as, then you can put in the word that you want to see, or whichever name that will make better sense to you for such column. So in my case, I want to display it as national num or number, for example. So as you can see, this is what the column name is stored within the table, but I'm going to display it in this way now. Let me execute this query so you can see it. As you can see now, it has a different name. Now let me make it in a way that will make a side-by-side compare. So this is our original table, and I'm adding an alias to that original table, so the column header or the column name will show in this way instead of this way. I'm going to run this again. So we have our original column name and we have our alias name. Now when you do aliases, or when you use the aliases for columns, you are not renaming the column within the table. You are just using a temporary name until your query is executed, and once you are done with your project, then the original column name will remain within its original name. You will not change that name, just so you know. Now let's practice on changing the job title. So I don't want to see it that way. I need to see it, for example, as job underscore title. So now we will be moving from this name to the new name, as you can see here. And let me add the original name again, so you get to see the compare. So it's actually stored in the table in this way, but I'm displaying it on my query results in this way, just to make it easy for my eyes to read it better. Now let's try to do the same thing for the hire date. Let's call it a date of hire, for example. DOH. So instead of hire date, I want to see that column name in a different way. Date of hire. Okay. Now you can either use this operator here as, or you can remove it. It will not change anything actually if you do it that way. So let me show you how we can do that. So you just write your original column and you hit the space bar and you put whichever name you want to alias this column with. So I'm going to run it and you will see. So my second one, let me call it number 2 so you guys can see which one I'm talking about. So I call this one number 1 and I have number 1 here, and the second one I called it number 2 and I have number 2 here. So the first one has the word as right prior to the alias number name. The second one does not have the word as prior to it, so you can write it either way. Okay, and we can do the same thing just for the sake of practice on this one as well. Okay, so we have our original column name. We alias it as job title using the operator as. Then we alias it as job title without the operator as. So either way will work for you. Let's do that on the second one as well. I mean the third one. Just for the sake of practicing. You should probably get the point by now, but let's just add an extra example. Okay, so our original column in the table is actually named hire date. We switched it or alias it as date of hire 1 using the operator as, and in another example we alias it as date of hire 2 without the operator as, and it still worked. Okay, hope this will help you actually start using aliases in the event that you have some table with weird names. Sometimes there are too long names that they will occupy actually your result screen when you run your query, and you will have to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling over and over and over to get to the last column. But in this case, when you use all aliases with short names or names that will make more sense to you, you will keep actually the result set area shrinked and more readable. Now let's see the table aliases. So as you can see here, I have this query that I wrote that will actually return all informations from the table employee within the human resources schema under the AdventureWorks 2019 database. So let's execute this query here. Now let's say I only want to return 3 columns from this table. What we can do is we will need to specify the path of that table, then dot and the name of my column, which will be in this case business identity ID, and I need to also return national ID number, and I need to return, let's say, birth date. Let's also add the job title. And run our query. Okay, so as you can see over here, we are actually repeating the name of the table several times and adding it right before the name of each column that we are trying to return. Now, because the length of all these words here and the name of the table, we will actually alias the table name to where we will show it in a short form. So the way you do that is you can, for example, call this table as A. You can say as letter A. Let's run it. Now, because we renamed it as A, the name of this table is not recognizable anymore. And the way to fix that, we will need to switch it from this long name, AdventureWorks 2019 dot human resources dot employee. We'll have to switch it to just letter A. A. Let's switch this one to A as well, and the last one as A. Now if I run it, the query recognizes the alias A that we specified here as the name of the table that we are pulling this column from. So this is aliasing a table again, which is different from aliasing columns that we saw earlier. Now let's do both aliasing table and aliasing a column all at once now. So this A here, remember, it's an alias for what we call the table. Now let's say I don't want to use A. You may use something, for example, that makes more sense to you, and once your eyes see that word, automatically you will tell, okay, this table is the employee table. Let's call it just EMP, for example, for employee. Then we can switch the A's here to EMP, run our query, and as you can see, everything did run fine. Now let's alias these columns. I don't want to see business entity ID. Let's just alias the column to B for business, E for entity, underscore ID. Let's run it, and as you can see, this word here will change from business entity ID to BE underscore ID. Right there. Let's do the same thing for national ID number. So from national ID number, it will show as NTNL underscore ID underscore num or number. As you can see here, job title, let's switch it to job underscore title. Now we will move from this word here to this word, job underscore title. Sorry, I had this word selected, and when I executed the query, SQL will not recognize job underscore title as a query. So I have to either select the whole query and run my query, or just click outside the query and hit F5 again or execute. And as you can see, I have job title now changed. Now let's switch date of birth to DOB. This is the original column name, and when I run my query, I will see the column alias now. So this is the difference between aliasing a table. You put your alias right after your table name. Then when you call your columns, make sure to put your table alias right before the column, and you can alias also your column name. If you don't want to see it in this way, you can alias it to show in this way. If you are good seeing your column name this way, then you are fine. You can just leave your column as is. You don't need to alias the column. And the reason we did alias this table is in the event that you have multiple tables that you are joining. For example, you join different tables. Let's pretend these tables are different. One is like, for example, sales, the other one is products, for example, and you don't want to be repeating this whole names over and over across all your columns that you are calling. You can just call this like SL for sale, this one PR for product, then you can just use those aliases right before the column that you are bringing from your from each of those long names or these tables. Okay. We will go actually over joining tables or multiple tables within one of our next tutorials, and you will see how actually aliasing table will come in handy to use whenever you join one or more than one table. Using comments in SQL. Comments are used actually to explain a section of a SQL statement or queries, or to prevent the execution of your statement or a column within your query. So let's go over the first example, which is explaining a section within a query. Let's say I have this query here, and another query here. So the first query is returning all job titles under the design engineer, and the second query is returning all jobs under the marketing manager title. Now let's say I want to put some comments for each of these queries to explain what this step is doing. In order to do that, you can write /*. As you can see, the moment I typed that, everything turned from its original color to green. So pretty much anything in green while you are writing SQL in Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, once the code will turn in green, that means you are commenting out that script or that query, and SQL will not run it. It will skip it. So for writing the comment, we'll do /*, then let's type our comment, what this query does actually. That's what we want to explain in this comment. The below query returns all job positions under the, let me copy this one here, under the design engineer title. So this is our comment. Now we have to close our comment. The way to close it, you need to put star and your / again. And as you can see, now if someone sends you a query in a file, once you open it and you see this comment here in the green color, automatically this will explain you what this step is doing. Now for the second step, within the code or the script, you just add your comment right above it. So when you share your code with someone, it will make it easy for them to tell what this code is doing. Now, just by looking at this code, it's actually, you will say, oh, why should I use a comment if just by looking at the code I can tell what it's doing? Yes, you can tell what this code is doing. It's because this code has what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows only. Now, I'm using those short queries just for the sake of this tutorial, but when you get to the field at work, you won't be dealing actually with short queries like this. You will be dealing with queries that are hundreds of lines. Sometimes they get up to 1,000 lines of code, and in order to tell what that query does, you will actually have to go through the whole code, go through all the queries, nested queries. If there are any CTEs in there, you have to read them all and see all the conditions within that code to better understand what does that code actually do. But when you add a comment, a simple comment right before that query, it will actually explain you what does that script do. And so this is actually how to comment a script or a step within a query. So this first step here, this is what it does. This second step of the query, this is what it does. Simple as that. Okay, so this is the first example of putting a comment for a section of query. The second example we will actually use will be for commenting out a part of your query, so we will prevent the execution of that part of the query. Let's use this example again. Now let's say, let me run this query first for you. Let's say I want to comment out one piece of this query so I don't see those results. For example, I don't want to return job title column for now. The way you do that, you do the same thing that I showed you earlier for commenting a section of the script or query. Now we will be commenting out a column within a query. So you do /* then you close your column, your comment by star and / again. Now, what do you think this query will do if I execute it? So pretty much what this query or this comment will do, it will run this whole query and it will skip this line, will not return the job title. So pretty much we will be receiving the national ID number and the hire date only when we run this query. Let's test that. And as you can see, only 2 columns, the ones that are not commented out. Now if I remove the comment that I added and run my query, I will get all my 3 columns back again. And let me show you another way how to comment a column within a script or anything within a script. So instead of putting the / and end it with */, let's use a different way. You can literally use 2 dashes and it will comment out your column here. Let me do that and execute it, and you will see only 2 columns that are not commented. You can also add a comment within your script to explain what that table includes or what it does. For example, let's say I have this table here because it's too long again of a table name. I need to make something here descriptive that will tell me what does that table include. So you can say this table includes employees info, for example. Now by adding a comment after a table name, as long as that comment has the 2 dashes prior to it or the /* and closed by *// you will be good to go and run it. So let's run this one. As you can see, commenting out a table just to explain what that table has will not have any impact on our results here. Okay. And you can also add a comment to a column name. For example, someone will see national ID number and will not understand what that column actually is for. So you can add in your code here a comment that says this is a unique identifier for all employees. So whenever someone is reading your query, once they see this column name here, they will read the columns that you put right after it, and it will make better sense to them, and it will also tell them where to look for that specific value within other columns, because other tables, because in another table this actually column here may be named differently, and without putting a comment to tell the user what the value or what that value behind that column is, it may be kind of difficult for them to find this value within other tables. Okay, so this is how we use comments to explain a section within a query or to comment out a part of a query or script. Hope this will help.